The following action research project was undertaken in a Year 3-4 composite class at Nuwara Public School. The title of my action plan is How Can I Implement Time Management Strategies Throughout My Lesson to Ensure Substantive Student Engagement in Individual and Group Settings? My action plan incorporates the MEE framework for engagement into mathematics, multiplication and division too. Students will be working in different group settings to increase student engagement. This will be my strategy to manage time. I will implement mixed ability groups in lessons that allow peer tutoring and have focus groups that work with the teacher for further explicit teaching. Declaration. I hold a copy of this assignment if the original is lost or damaged. I hereby certify that no parts of this assignment or product has been submitted by me in another assignment, except where appropriate referenced with prior permission from unit coordinator of this unit. Nuwara Public School opened in 1973 and has 15 mainstream classrooms and 7 special education classes, 5 hearing support and 2 autism IOIM. The school is located in a multicultural area called Moorebank. This means schools in the community have children from diverse backgrounds. Nuwara has a diverse population of students from different cultural and socio-economic backgrounds. I conducted my action research plan with a Stage 2 3-4 composite class called 3-4 Mudgee. The class has 25 students, with 1 student with Asperger's syndrome, students with anxieties, and 4 ELDs, English is an additional language or dialect speakers. 2 students need additional needs in learning when it comes to maths and English. There are 6 students that are at high academic level, 6 students at low academic level, and 13 students at a sound to basic academic level, medium. My mentor teacher has 15 years of experience over multiple stages. The focus of this action research plan is time management strategies for the teacher to implement in my teaching so there is effective student engagement in the classroom. Research has found that limiting the time to 10 minutes of explicit teaching, this is done briskly but in small steps, show evidence of student success. By allocating specific times to complete work, students stay on task and engage with content more effectively. Moreover, I wanted to investigate whether student group work can manage my time more easily, as I often spend too much time with my emergent learners. What I struggled with was managing students' learning and engagement within the time frame in a lesson. There was also an issue of students giving me incomplete work when too little time were given to them, such as emergent learners, to complete their work. There was also your advanced students finishing too early and sometimes sitting there disrupting their peers. Due to my lack of organization, I found that I never finished my lessons on time, and I was too focused on managing students' learning and behavior. As a result, I would always be behind schedule and would spend more time on a lesson than needed. I believe I didn't implement effective or engaging teaching strategies in my class and lacked time management skills. I also found that my emergent learners would be too dependent on me and would want me to sit with them the whole lesson. In these situations, I was unable to allocate equal time slots to my sound and advanced learners. This is unfortunate for my sound and advanced learners. By me not giving them equal amount of attention, I am not extending them and in fact, holding them back at times. Therefore, I believe I need to work on my time management skills to effectively engage all diverse learners in my class, and I believe group work, peer tutoring will minimize my issue. My original action plan was based on how I manage my time by creating effective task designs, effective differentiation, and implementing cooperative social learning in the classroom to create substantive student engagement. I have incorporated the MEE framework in my lessons, which defines a student's involvement, attitude, and enthusiasm towards their schoolwork. The pedagogical factors of E in the framework refers to the substantive engagement of students in learning at high cognitive, thinking hard, high affective, having fun, and high operative level, working hard. However, my marker believed I had too many subsets to managing time, and I wanted me to focus on one subtopic. I believe implementing the social learning theory in my lessons would assist my time management skills and suit the needs for all diverse learners in my class. Students will be working in different group settings to increase student engagement. This will be my strategy to manage time. I will implement mixed ability groups in lessons that allow peer tutoring and focus groups that work with the teacher for further explicit teaching. I believe having mixed ability groups for maths activities would be beneficial for my emergent learners because there would be evidence of peer tutoring and modeling for the advanced learners to the emergent learners. Here, cooperative learning will facilitate students to collaborate with their peers by creating their own arguments, being active learners, sharing ideas, form their own hypotheses, and investigate the world around them. Having groups of different academic levels allows students to complement others' weaknesses, challenge your advanced learners to model for emergent learners, and build on individual strengths. This type of group work encourages social peer interactions, which creates an inclusive classroom that applies the notions of the MEE framework of substantive student engagement. Students of the same ability can have explicit learning with the teacher whether they are emergent or advanced, such as fast finishers. Teachers can introduce new content to these individuals. Finally, I will collect my data using student work samples, observations, interactions, and student self-assessment. By following ethics, all consent forms were assigned by the mentor teacher and principal in Appendix 1. I wanted my research to be directed on 3 focus students of different academic levels and wanted to see whether group work is effective for all diverse learners and whether they effectively participate and engage in their math activities. I wanted to see if there was an increase in academic achievements from all students by their interactions with peers through the social learning theory. The methods of data collection would be student work samples, observation, interactions, and student self-assessment. I plan to engage all 3 students in mathematical activities by placing them in different types of group settings, backed up by the social learning theory. The topics I wanted to cover were skip counting by 7 and finding the factors and multiples of whole numbers with activities that had mixed ability groups and focus groups. I wanted to see whether the social learning theory will affect how I manage time and whether it engages all 3 students in maths. Evaluation of data. Student work samples. Student work samples provided me with a physical evidence of students' achievement in social learning theory and gave me an insight on students' progression in a shared learning environment. Work samples were photographed at the end of each lesson to see the amount of work produced and the progression of learning for all 3 focus students. This way, you can see exactly how engaged your emergent learners, sound and advanced learners are in their activities. Observation. Observations were noted by me and my mentor teacher on a feedback form of students during their social interactions with peers. These observations will allow teachers to reflect on their teaching and subsequent improvement on the best way to engage students. These evidence will show the effectiveness of social learning theory and whether students are engaged in learning. Interactions. Interactions with students gave me evidence of the language the students use, noted in a notebook, how engaged they are in activities, and whether they are using appropriate mathematical language in group settings. Active dialogue between my student and I was recorded during student group collaboration and group work. These conversations allowed me to see whether students worked successfully in group settings and if they achieved the MEE framework of cognitive, operative, and affective outcomes. Student self-reflection. At the completion of a collaborative task, students used exit slips to reflect on their learning. These self-reflection activities allow students to reflect on their own learning and inform teachers about what the students understood and didn't. Student self-reflection assessment is evidence for the teacher to see the level of engagement through student feedback and whether the activities were appropriate for all learners in the class within a given time frame. Key findings. Before implementing effective group work, Student S lacked motivation and engagement for prolonged periods of time when working independently. She often sat at her desk and waited for the teacher to help her, but she would lack independency and as a result never complete her work. Student J lacked motivation and as a result would disrupt the students around him. Student H would often complete his work and be eager to do more, but at times would disrupt another student's learning or let another student copy his work. As an educator, it is my role to provide opportunities for students to be motivated and engaged through high cognitive, affective, and operative activities in relation to social learning theory. Lesson 1 Maths 30, 10, 19. In Lesson 1, students will be split into mixed ability groups to play multiplication square. Each group will have an emergent learner, sound learner, and an advanced learner. Later, I will ask emergent learners to come to the floor for further explicit teaching in a focus group where they will be using counters and a 100 chart for assistance. Students will then go back to their desk and complete their worksheet independently. Lesson 1 Maths. Observation. Student H was really enjoying the multiplication game and became really competitive. He helped the emergent learner in his group to multiply 2 times 6 using the 100 charts. Student H pointed at 6 and then jumped 6 more spaces on the chart to show the emergent learner that the answer is 12. Group work has enabled Student H to peer tutor the emergent learner. Student work samples. During the multiplication square game, it is evident that all 3 students were engaged and participated from the 3 colored squares. Students had to roll the dice and multiply the numbers to get the product. Emergent learners had used counters and their 100 chart to achieve the same outcome as the rest of her peers. Student S then worked in a small focus group with me for explicit teaching. She then asked to work independently. Through her work sample, there is evidence of high cognitive and high operative as she got most questions correct. Interactions. Multiplication square game. Through active dialogue and conversation between myself and my students, I can see there is evidence of highly operative and cognitive participation of all group members on application of numeracy problems. Student S showed ability when she asked if she could use her counters and 100 chart. She showed the engaging messages while she worked with her peers. This piece of data shows evidence of inside a classroom where student J and R are sharing ideas with student S and use key vocabulary like product and factors. Student self-assessment. From student self-reflection, student H found the multiplication square game fun, but wanted a more challenging activity where he had to multiply 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers. He is definitely highly cognitive as he suggested what he wanted to learn in the next lesson. Student J was able to recall key definitions like factors and say it out loud for our student S to hear. Student S has increased her vocabulary with the word product and factors. However, nobody commented on how they like working in groups. Student H just mentioned that working in groups to play the game was a different activity that he has experienced. Short and long-term implications. Overall, the final product of my case study was proven that social peer interactions is an effective method for engaging students and managing time. By students working in groups, students are more engaged as they have an important role and they are more likely to be guided into independent work. This overall directed my time management skills as I was able to share my time across all groups and facilitate the learning of all students rather than just the emergent learners. There was clear evidence in the data methodology of active dialogue that had shown student R and J modeling mathematical language to student S. Here, both the sound and advanced students were modeling and explaining to the emergent learner, benefiting from peer tutoring as they extend their communication and collaborative skills. Self-efficiency was prominent in the students' learning through engaging messages. Emergent learners developed self-directed learning skills, which then led them to independency. Student J had shown great improvements in behavior as he now directed his focus on participating in group settings and in some cases modeled his understanding of mathematical concepts to emergent learners. Finally, all three students were able to value their learning, take control of their learning, and build a positive relationship with education. This highlights the capital E in the framework engagement, and all students acknowledge the importance of schooling. The following references are in APA form. These are my consent forms from both the principal at Nuwara Public School and my mentor teacher.